Thank you so much for inviting me to come and chat with y'all. Dang, I just got fully on my entire screen. Um, yeah, I was so grateful when Zoe asked me to come and chat with y'all. When Zoe asked me to do something, I do it. So here I am. I'm actually jumping late because, or I had to jump in a little late because we had a paddle today. We took some kids out with Urban Tilth, and it was super lit. But like any good organizer, I had to feed my volunteers. And so we went to get out dinner to get lunch. And I was running home after that. But let me see if I can share my screen. Let's see, application window
Let's see, I might
share.
be okay, you got it?
Boom, you can see that.
Great. Looks good.
Let me see if I can just also look at this sick picture. That's us. Allegedly. Okay. Okay, sweet. You can see this presentation in full screen. Okay, cool. Today I'm going to talk to y'all about essentially about the raise, what we do, how we do it, and hope that you can gain some valuable lessons from that. I'll try to yap at y'all for about 10 to 15 minutes and then make some space for questions and answers, hopefully. This full transparency, these slides are like a copy and paste of our new member orientation template. And so there might be some things that maybe don't make sense for this context, but we'll send it anyway. Um, cool. This picture actually, for some context, this is from Anti-Chevron Day 2024, I believe, when we had like 70 people in total out on the water, 70 individuals involved in the action overall. Um, it was a super lit day. We had some people go out. I think there's a picture of it in the slide, but we had some people go out to vlog a boat for a little bit, and I'll get into that. But why don't I just jump in? Um, let's see. Oh, that's doing okay. Cool. See, this is one of the slides that don't make sense. But generally today I'm gonna talk to y'all. I'm gonna have y'all do a little like answer a little question for me in the chat, and then basically go into like why, how we organize, um, get maybe a little bit about member agreements, and then how y'all can get involved, or also some other kind of calls to action for y'all. Um, let's see. You all know each other. I don't know you, but I can see your names in your little squares. But I would invite y'all to add in the chat, like if you're familiar with the work of the Rays, if you've come to a paddle, if you yeah, if you've come to a paddle, let me know in the chat what you're interested about generally about learning from today also. That'd be sick to know. And if you're like, dang, I can't think of anything that I want to learn today, what's your relationship to the water? I love asking people that, and I would love to know. Um, awesome. Go ahead and do that in the chat. So who are the Rich City Rays? So the Rich City Rays is a grassroots partnership of organizers, community members, environmentalists, outdoor educators, all rooted in Richmond. And we come together to use kayaktivism, what we call kayaktivism, as a force for addressing the climate crisis and addressing the impacts of environmental racism through community-led nonviolent direct action on the water. We've been organizing together since about 2021 to empower the communities most harmed by fossil fuel operations in the Bay Area to stand up to corporate polluters in a creative, exciting, life-affirming way. We, let's see, I'm just gonna move ahead. Skipping ahead. Um, we've been organizing together since 21, and so I'm gonna go into talking about like why we organize, how we organize, but at the core of it, we organize for justice. We believe that for the future to pan out in a way where the communities most harmed by fossil fuel operations over the last 200 years are not left behind in this new world that we build, uh, we have to be in the driver's seat, both in terms of um, kind of helping make the policy decisions that move us beyond the current state that we live in, but also in terms of who is taking the reins of advocating against it and whose voices are being uplifted when it comes to talking about. Sorry, I'm getting a call. Hopefully that. Okay, y'all don't hear that. Um, Sorry, I lost my train of thought. But yeah, we organize for justice, and we want to do it in a really creative way. We came together originally in 2019. We came together in 2019 after there was a proposal to dredge parts of the San Francisco Bay deeper to allow for heavier like tankers to come through the refinery corridor, I believe, all the way to the port of Modesto. I didn't even know Modesto had a port. Um, and very much inspired and led by Isabella Zizi, a local indigenous leader who had seen both the use of kayaks and canoes by indigenous groups in the past, and one particular like direct action group up in the Pacific Northwest called Mosquito Fleet, and thought, how could we make that happen here? How could we amass a group of people who are trained in kayaking and are like kind of building up skills to be ready to say block infrastructure that will be driving harm from building developments. Um, the mosquito fleet up in the Pacific Northwest has been able to, in the past, like stall and halt projects to drill in the Arctic by organizing actions out of like the Port of Tacoma, the Port of Seattle, in Portland also. I think Portland and Seattle is where they're mostly active. And so we were very inspired by them to say, how can we form a direct action group locally in the Bay that can be ready to take action on the water. And we are rooted in Richmond because Richmond, for many of us, will always be our home. Richmond is my hometown. It is where my heart is, where my community is. And Richmond also is a frontline community. We are on the front lines of the climate crisis. We have, as many of you probably already know, the largest refinery in the state of California. Not if you ask the people of Wilmington, but that's different, I think. But essentially the largest polluter in the state of California. Richmond is in the 99th percentile for asthma rates, and that is directly linked to the impacts of not only the refinery, but all of the industry that exists in Richmond to support refinery operations. Um, uh, and like in Richmond, we have an active coal port. There is a um, there's the case that communities are living trapped in between railroads and highways next to refineries and repair shops and coal ports. And this has led to the situation where Richmond has among, like I just mentioned, the highest rates of asthma in the country. But we also have among the Bay Area one of the highest concentrations of industrial sites, of contaminated sites, of like other respiratory health issues. Um, these are maps from Cal EnviroScreen that break down pollution impact and sort of different impacts by census tract. And I love showing people these maps because particularly the one about asthma, if you were to put this map next to the like Federal Housing Administration apps from the 30s, the ones like famously known or infamously known as the redlining maps, it's the same map. It's the same map. The communities that the FHA was discouraging white people from moving into and basically creating these conditions where certain communities like North Richmond and West Oakland were the only places where Black and Brown people could live. Those maps, if you lay those maps next to like this map of asthma rates in California, it's the same map because these same systems are connected. The situation in Richmond is very much a legacy of racism in government, a legacy of state-sponsored violence against Black and Brown people that has created a situation where we in Richmond and in many other parts of the Bay Area are sacrifice zones. There would never be a refinery in Berkeley, and that's intentional. It's very much it was the fact that North Richmond was one of the few places that was a hub to receive Black immigrants coming from the East Coast and from the South and during the waves of Great Migration. Um, and I think part of our work today is to build up a new world in a way that actually tackles the root causes of these, pollution impacts. Um, and we believe that, I think at the root of our organizing is the understanding that two things that we need to take bold action against those that are harming our communities and take action in creative ways that are actually disrupting operations and making it very clear to the people harming our communities that we are not going to just stand by as they are actively polluting our homes, as they are polluting our waterways, as they're polluting our backyards, our lungs, our bodies. Um, for me, I started organizing around environmental justice in like 2021, or like 2020. But, for me, things like the 2012 explosion at the refinery were a big wake-up moment where, I had learned about the climate crisis. I'd learned about climate change in like fourth grade in my science class. But I think things like the refinery explosion highlighted for me that not only is this petroleum refinery and all of the industry related to it a driver of like at large climate catastrophe, it is literally killing us. It is literally killing me, my neighbors, my family. It's killing all of us slowly in many ways and very fast in a lot of other ways. Um, and so we came together to create this like group of people who could channel their desire to take action in this creative way, but also to create conditions for people to reclaim their right to live in a relationship to the water. We understand that in order for us to build a world that is ecologically diverse, that is rooted in systems of care and community and in principles of regeneration, we need to have an intimate relationship to the environment that we live in. I think part of why my ancestors lived in what is now known as Sinaloa in Mexico for super long is because there was a very deep relationship to the land. And, we believe that part of helping us rebuild and move beyond these systems of extraction and exploitation and racial capitalism, we need to truly understand the place that we live in and have a deep relationship to it. And so how do we do that? We do that through connecting people with the water, both through actions like the ones that you see on the screen now. We've hosted a series of actions at the refinery. Pretty much every anti-Chevron day, you'll find us being a headache to the Chevron Corporation. That is my favorite thing to do, is to be a headache for the Chevron Corporation. The pictures on the left are from Anti-Chevron Day 2024, where we took out some people to the refinery to enter this like federal exclusion zone to see like what are they gonna do? Can we do this again, like in a more intense way? Which is what we did this year. But this was our first kind of entry into the zone in a big way. We had one group of people enter the zone and raise this banner that reads "Abolish Chevron." That was a little old me at the bottom, yelling at people, telling them what to do. And then we had another bigger group of people who stayed outside of the zone, but were similarly kind of there taking space, taking ownership of the waters back. Um, we've also done a series of like solidarity paddles. The picture right in the middle is from a paddle that we did with the Alcatraz, the like the workers that run the Alcatraz cruises lines who were like um, trying to negotiate with like Alcatraz cruises for like contract that was fair to them as workers. And Alcatraz was like not trying to negotiate in good faith. And they were like, okay, we're gonna go on strike. And Alcatraz Cruises was like, all right, cool. We're gonna fly in a bunch of scabs from all over the country to like run the boats. And then we were like, no, you're not, because we're gonna go out and block that first boat of the morning, bright and early at like 5 in the morning before you can send the workers out. Uh, in solidarity with these workers, like we showed up, they like declared strike, went off, and then came and saw us, and we're super stoked. And that actually turned out really well for them. Pictures on the right are from some actions that we've done in solidarity with the people of Gaza. The top right one is in Lake Merritt. I think that Harris was in town for that, and so we went out to Lake Merritt. The picture from the bottom right is at the Chevron headquarters. There was a group of people who were like wanting to block the entrance to the headquarters, and I wasn't there, but I believe what happened was that like we went out with the banner that you see on this like the pond or something in front of the building, to get security to be like, oh, this is happening, while other people like stormed in to like block the entrance to the actual building. It was allegedly super rad, or so I hear. We also do a series of like community paddles on the sort of second part of our mission of helping people reconnect to their right to live in a relationship to the land. We do like regular community paddles. We have BIPOC paddles. This year we started our like solidarity paddle program where we will take kids out from other community groups, like when Communities for a Better Environment has their like leadership academy every year. We've been lucky enough to be asked to take kids out to kind of experience the waters in Richmond. Today we took a group from Urban Tilth's urban like watershed restoration fellowship out on the water, when our friends from Texas Campaign for the Environment, who organize against like liquefied natural gas expansion in the Gulf South, when they were in town for a campaign during the summer, we got to take them out. Um, and that's like essentially like what the work of the raise looks like. I'm going to talk a little bit about like how we break up the sort of organizing work to kind of give you an idea for like what works for us. Maybe it'll work for you in terms of scheduling or organizing your organizing committee. Um, but so this is basically how we break it up. We have three people who are paid staff who kind of do the work of like making sure the wheels are moving, making sure that committees are meeting, and stewarding volunteers through different working groups. So we have like a comms team who does like external operations, outreach, materials. If you are on our Instagram, that's us, that's my gang. We have our leadership council, who's kind of our like board of directors, so to speak, to make sure that what we're doing, the things that we're doing are like strategically aligned with our long-term goal or long-term vision. We have our maintenance team who works on repairing boats, paddles, our safety gear. They maintain our wonderful space. We have our programming team who helps us organize our paddles, organize like community meetings, gatherings, and things like that. Our organizing committees, which come together on a sort of like action specific basis. So like when we are like, oh my God, Anti-Chevron Day is in like a couple months. So what are we going to do about it? Or what are we going to do this year? Like these committees come together when we're like, there is a group that is looking for like rapid response on the water. There's like federal troops are being sent to Alameda. What do we do about that? These committees come together to um, brainstorm and like develop these actions in response to needs within the community. And then we have our finance group who help us throw together the resources to make this all happen, apply for grants, help us like budget for the year, do like payroll and stuff for volunteers, and recruit other people to help with finances. Let's see. Um, yeah, this is one of those from the new member orientation that doesn't kind of make sense, but what we generally tell people as they come in is like join a working group. Whatever you sort of are good at, we can help you get better at by doing with us. Um, we had our community paddle actually last Saturday, so too late. But we will hopefully have an end of year celebration at some point in December. I would invite all of you, if you don't already, follow us on Instagram. It'd be crazy if you didn't already follow us on Instagram. But follow us on Instagram at Rich City Rays. And boycott Chevron. Don't pump at Chevron. Hold the line. Chevron sucks so bad for so many reasons that you all already know. But let me see. Do I have a question slide? I don't have a question slide. Um, but I should have paused earlier for questions, but I will pause there to see if folks have any questions. I'm looking through, I asked you all a question in the chat and then I didn't even look through the answers. Um,
I have a question, Luna. Could
go
you
ahead.
talk a little bit more about the current boycott Chevron, like if what's going on and what the ask is? Because I have that in a later slide, but if you could talk about it, that would be great.
Um, well, I know the like major ask is like don't pump at Chevron kind of for now. Like I know there is some interest in coordinating a sort of larger campaign against Chevron. Um, um, but like yeah, like are you like maybe in terms of like why people are asking to boycott Chevron or like what?
Yeah, just that there's a larger campaign going on, and there's been an ask to boycott Chevron for a minute now, both because of their fossil fuel interests and their, war.
Yes, they are. I mean, there's so many reasons to boycott Chevron, like for one, but all, I mean, like locally, they are the largest source of pollution in the state of California, for one. Like, if that's not enough, like, what the heck? But also, I mean, they are doing so much to fund like terrible, terrible human rights abuses all over the world. Like, they are literally like fueling the genocide in Gaza. They are providing the fuel that goes into the tanks that are and the machines of war that are blowing up schools and hospitals. They like were like I think like actively funding the government in Myanmar that was like responsible for the genocide there. They are like one of the most litigious companies in the world. Many of you know the case of like Steven Donziger, who was imprisoned for his work to help indigenous communities in Ecuador have hold Chevron Texaco accountable for the pollution that they've caused in Ecuador. Um, but like Chevron and their homies are like um, some of the I mean the Chevron is like the largest contributor to the work of the Western States Petroleum Association, who y'all know is like a terrible, terrible petroleum lobby, who are actively like not only like encouraging the government to do all these bad things, but are like actively funding like the Trump campaign and Trump's campaign and like all of these like Republicans like all over the country who are using this power that they are amassing to strip environmental protections, to strip democratic rights all over the country. And if you're like, dang, what do I do about all of this? Like literally the most basic thing that you can do is boycott Chevron. Don't pump a Chevron. Word.
Great. Does anybody else have any questions for our esteemed guest? Awesome. I'm not seeing anything, but as Luna said, if you follow on social media, you'll see about upcoming events and things like that, and we try to share them here too. So thank you so much. Yes, Ray, go ahead.
So I don't know if you said this, but what age range takes advantage of these kayaks? And is there a charge to people to get together and ride in them, or how does all that work?
Yeah, so we are lucky enough that, or I guess smart enough, that we've used a lot of the like funds that we have raised over the last few years to buy boats off like Facebook Marketplace. A lot of people were like, I'm gonna get into kayaking during the pandemic, and then that never happened for them. And so they had to sell their boats for super cheap on Facebook. Um, and so to answer your question more directly, we usually have paddlers between like honestly the range overall is like from 16 to 70 in terms of like people that we've had out on the water. We are kind of at the root of our mission is to get youth from Richmond and the greater East Bay into BIPOC youth from Richmond and the greater East Bay into kayaks. And so most of the people who we have out, who we like target to come to events are between 16 and like 34, 35. Um, uh, and most of our events are on a like donation basis. And so we ask people, if you've got 20 bucks to donate to help us cover the cost of at least like staff and to like save up money to maintain materials and contribute towards like our rental costs for our space that we store things in. Sick, but like no one has ever turned away for lack of funds. Um, we used to like rent boats from Sea Track and REI for a while, but that is like crazy expensive. And we were like, we could just
Yeah.
buy our own boats from that. And like we have
Luna, I'm
our
sorry, I have to interrupt you because I'm realizing that it's 5:56.
oh,
Oops. Um, but thank you so much. And please, like, yeah, feel free to reach out anytime. Um, so I think thank you so much, Luna, if we can get like claps and appreciation in the chat.